Hello viewers, this is your host Sri Iyer from PGurus. Today we are going to reach out to Professor M.D. Nalapat and draw on his wisdom as to the events that are happening around India. We're going to start first by talking about what is happening in Maldives, or as they used to call in Tamil, Malathivu. Now, Maldives became independent from the British in 1965. Before I go into the history, Professor Nalapat, welcome to P Guru's channel.
Thank you. Thank you.
Uh, so a bit of perspective about Malathivu. I'm more comfortable calling it Malathivu because it is very natural. I mean, that is how the name came, which means a garland of islands. Um, it got its independence from the British in 1965, and then from 1978 up until 2008, for 30 years, Abdul Gayoom was the president. And around 2000, maybe a few years before 2008, a journalist started demanding more democracy and more rights for its citizens and so on. And his name was Abdul Nasheed. I don't know his first name. And in 2008 elections, he actually got elected. And so you can say that democracy was fledgling and it was beginning to maybe flourish. But in 2013, there were elections in Maldives, which left a lot to be desired. Many said that it was rigged. In fact, the United Nations said that. And in 2013, a nephew of Abdul Gayoom got installed as the president. And ever since then, Maldives has been in a bit of a downward spiral. To understand a little bit more about what happened, I'm not as current about this as Professor Nalapat is. This is actually his specialty. Professor Nalapat, can you please draw upon your experience of what has been happening in Maldives for the past several years?
Well, the fact is that you have a situation where across the world, the organization that I call the Wahabi International has been spending a lot of time, effort, and money in the Maldives, radicalizing the very moderate population there and trying to basically convert them from Islam to Wahabism. I regard Islam and Wahabism as two opposing faiths, frankly, because Wahabism does not contain even an ounce of the mercy, the compassion, the beneficence that is there at the beginning of almost every surah, I think barring one, in the Holy Quran. So the reality of situation is that they have succeeded beyond their wildest expectations. You have this man, Abdullah Yameen, who was basically chosen as the president by the Wahhabi International, and by corrupt means, by gangsterism, by bribery, he forced a victory in the 2013 election. Since then, he has behaved as a despot. He has jailed the Supreme Court Chief Justice. He has, Nasheed. He has jailed Nasheed. He has jailed so many people who are opposed to Wahhabism. Moderate people, people who represent genuine Islam, are being driven out of the political and social space of a once moderate country by this Wahhabi group that has taken power. Now, Shri, one of the important points about this group, and I'm really disappointed, frankly, that some of the agencies in India don't allow the public to share this kind of information. There is extensive contact between the ISI and the individuals who are now in authority in the Maldives. Telephone lines between Malé, Rawalpindi, Peshawar, Islamabad, Abbottabad, and we all know whose home Abbottabad was. They absolutely buzz with traffic, and unfortunately, our people who are supposed to be managing the agencies, they don't educate the Indian public about any of this. They don't educate the world public about any of this. The fact is today, just as the Taliban was a slave of the Pakistan army, Abdullah Yameen is a slave of the Pakistan army, and I say this with a full amount of seriousness. The man is not a free agent.
That's really serious and something that should have been made known to all the people, especially in India. And just for viewers' information, just to go back to look at history, up until the 12th century, it is believed that Maldives was Buddhist, and then in 12th century it got converted into Islam, which is it's okay. I mean, Islam is fine. As Professor Nalapat says, we have to distinguish between Islam and Wahabism. Now, Professor Nalapat, there has been a tweet, a significant tweet, if you will, by Dr. Subramanian Swamy, who expressed his fears about the next elections coming up in next month also being rigged in Maldives. Now, the government reaction has been, I don't know, I'm a little confused. Maybe you can tell me what you think is being thought about in New Delhi.
Well, I frankly don't know what is being thought in official circles in New Delhi, what kind of thinking takes place or does not take place there. But all I can say is that when all the brave words that we have heard about fighting Wahabism, fighting extremism, and frankly, it's very important that India join the global war on Wahabism. And in this context, I want to add that India must join the global war against hate. I regard those who killed people who eat beef as terrorists. Those people who frankly lynch people who are carrying cattle in trucks, these are terrorists, and they have to be apprehended and dealt with as terrorists. Any kind of fanaticism has to be put down with a heavy hand. It's not only one form, it's all forms. So let me add that point very, very clearly. But having said that, I want to say it's not enough to just talk about fighting extremism. What has India done in a practical sense? Look at Jammu and Kashmir. The BJP allowed the PDP to come to power. The PDP is a soft separatist party. I'm sure if an ordinary citizen like me is aware of this, I'm sure the government knows it fully well, that the PDP people go across the Middle East and solicit funds for a free Kashmir. They collect tons of money and they've all got expensive lifestyles. And frankly, they are very, very close to Wahhabi groups operating in the Middle East and elsewhere. And while in places like Dubai, they also meet people from a certain neighboring country whom I don't need to name on this channel because I think we all know what country that is. Now, despite all this information, you support that government, you support a chief minister from that party, you support ministers from that party, and then you give them freedom, 95% freedom to do their worst. When they go in a situation where it becomes almost embarrassing for you, then you make a few feeble protests and pull them back. But frankly, it is a disaster. Now, Wahabis, like the Hurriyat Conference, they operate in Kashmir. They don't pay income taxes. Nobody really analyzes the money that comes in or goes out. The Department of Revenue Intelligence, the Enforcement Directorate, the Income Tax Department, these are all fast asleep in the Valley of Kashmir. They do nothing, frankly. Now, this is a situation where Wahhabism is concerned in our own country. And I'm sorry to say, some parts of the country, parts of Bengal, some parts of the south, parts of the west, there also enclaves of Wahhabism are coming up. And I don't see, very frankly, any kind of strategy or action or even a realization that is what is happening. The fact is, Sri, you must act. The government of India cannot just talk. The government of India must act.
Now, as far as curbing Wahhabism or curbing the flow of foreign currency into India, I've heard, to actually add to your point, I've heard that these units have found new ways to make it look as if legit money is coming in for legitimate purposes when it actually is not. And this whole fracas about UAE wanting to give $700 million, it was just one other, trial balloon to try and do something, I guess. But long story short, I think you have a very valid point, sir. This menace has to be stopped, not only just in India, but also in its neighboring countries, because India used to be good friends with Maldives, with Mauritius, and Sri Lanka, and so on. And this sort of meddling by Wahhabi interests is not good for the country. And you mentioned one thing about Mehbooba Mufti. What about her father? Was he just as bad?
Well, he was the home minister when Kashmir exploded. Let's not forget that. And he was complicit in a very shabby bargain with people who basically, it was very clear when he, as the home minister, the signal was passed on. And as chief minister, the signal was passed on when his daughter took over and he was taken over to the Wahabis, to the extremists. You can do what you like in Kashmir. So today in Kashmir, about 1/5 of the territory has become almost a no-go area for the police. Now this is absurd. This is rolling back progress that has been there since 1996, 95, 96, at great cost in human lives, at great cost in treasure. So this is what is happening in Kashmir. So far as the $700 million is concerned, Sri, I'm sorry, but I think that's a conventional way of looking at it. This money, if it comes through government channels, is much better than now. It must certainly be coming in. It will be coming in through thousands of informal channels. So very frankly, I'd rather that we accepted it through normal government channels. We always make this mistake of trying to basically slice the head off to cure the headache. And then we say, oh, we don't have a headache. There's no head and there's nothing else either. So sorry, I don't accept that. My point is, Wahabism is a global phenomenon. I would have liked to see 2 squadrons of the Indian Air Force, one fighting in Iraq, one fighting in Syria against Daesh, against the Islamic State, ISI of Iraq and Syria, ISIS. Now, that's precisely what Putin did long after I had first made the suggestion. And today you've seen Russia has become once again a global force. Russia has become the second most important country in the Middle East, frankly, after the US. Because of these 2 squadrons, we could have done that. And we could have shown our independence by one of the squadrons responding to the government of Bashar Assad, which the West does not like, and one of the squadrons responding to the Iraqi government, which is friendly both to Iran and the United States. We did nothing. Now, in the case of the Maldives, this election in September, you're going to see a massive victory for Abdullah Yameen. I'm certain about it. It's going to be a rigged election. There's, the Supreme Court or the court in the Maldives is now enslaved to the Wahabis. The police, the military, it's being denuded of moderate elements and they are being terrified into submission by the Wahabis. So Yameen is going to come back to power on a rigged verdict as he did in 2013. Manmohan Singh should have acted in 2013. He should have acted the way Rajiv Gandhi did. If Sonia Gandhi was in charge in 2013, she in fact betrayed the legacy of Rajiv Gandhi by not telling Manmohan Singh to act in the Maldives against this kind of takeover by an illicit force. And after that also, I'm very surprised to see no action has been taken. I am very clear. After this September verdict, this bogus verdict, India must act to restore democracy in the Maldives. What Swami has said is absolutely right. And let me add that this government has not allowed Swami to become even, an executive officer of a panchayat. It has not given him any executive authority at all. And I'm a little surprised at that, very, very frankly, when so many people of Lutyens Delhi are in the highest ranks of power in this government. I would like to say September is a test for the Modi government. September is a test of India's resolve to fight against Wahabism. After this September defeat of moderate forces at the hands of a rigged verdict, India must act to restore democracy. And I am confident that Donald Trump, the President of the United States, will stand with India. I am confident the United States will stand with India. And I am also confident that if Modi gets on the line to Xi Jinping and explains to Xi Jinping the situation and tells him that, look, moderates are far better able to protect world interests, including Chinese interests, than radicals, I don't believe the Chinese also will respond in anything except a formal manner. So this is going to be a test. Is the government sincere about fighting Wahabism, or is it just tough talk, tall talk, and no action?
Those are stirring words. In fact, I'm really concerned for what's happening around India now. And, just making empty rhetoric, Marketing is great, but you have to follow through with products, and that's where I think Mr. Modi has his work cut out. I hope he listens. And what you said about Dr. Swami's non-participation in this government, despite being a very, very significant player in enabling this government to come to power, I mean, this is astounding. That's all I can say. But be that as it may, September, please act, Mr. Modi, and ensure that democracy prevails in Maldives. Thank you very much, Professor Nalapat.